Welcome to the Capes of Kamloops Podcast, where we look at the local heroes in our community and celebrate their works as they're shown on the big screen. I'm one of your hosts, Zach.
And I'm Kyle.
And today we are joined by Captain Bruzzese to discuss the 1991 film Backdraft. I said it wrong again, didn't I?
No, you said it right.
I said it right?
You did it. You got
Awesome.
it. You nailed it.
Okay,
nailed it.
Perfect. We'll
Yeah.
just leave that in. We are here to discuss the 1991 film Backdraft, directed by Ron Howard, starring Kurt Russell, William Baldwin, and Robert De Niro, and how it depicts the life of firefighters. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It's an honor to have you. And for the Spotify listeners, we are actually sitting in the fire hall in Kamloops, which was graciously open to us for this podcast interview. So thank you so much for that as well.
Anytime.
So walk us through a little bit of like how you got into firefighting.
Ooh, it's a long time ago. So I have been with Kamloops Fire for the last I'm in my 26th year, so 25
Wow.
years. I started in April of 2001. I kind of fell into it at a very young age. Honestly, I wanted to be a firefighter probably from the time I was about 13 or 14. I was a competitive gymnast. I was always kind of like really athletic, and so it kind of felt like a natural fit for a really physical job. I don't think that was necessarily at 13 what I was thinking, but I think it just sort of, that's where I ended up kind of being led to this kind of career.
Nice, like a natural progression.
A natural progression, yeah.
Very
you
nice.
have to be a little bit fit for this job, to say the least. So it definitely helped to have that kind of background.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for all your years in the community, helping everyone here out. It's much appreciated.
It's been a great career so far. I'm kind of in the twilight of my career. I only have maybe a handful of years left before retirement. So I'm just always walking into this fire hall or any fire hall and just so grateful that I got to do this. And I got to live out a childhood dream, basically.
Nice.
Not many people know what they want to do when they're that young and follow through with it. So I'm pretty grateful to be here.
Awesome.
I love that.
And this is your like home
This
fire
is
hall?
this is my home fire hall for the last couple of years. We will move around occasionally just to kind of get a different perspective, different community, things like that. But yeah, right now this is where I'm based out of.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, Backdraft, as we talked about, we had a screening. Is it the Paramount Theater still? Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
Pacific
Paramount
Theater?
or
Yeah,
KFS
Paramount,
Theater.
Yeah, shout out to KFS Theater, where we did do a screening of Backdraft. Now, that was my first time seeing the film. I'm actually 26 years old, so you've been protecting the community for as long as I've been in it, so thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. But that was my first experience with Backdraft on the big screen and just in general. Do you have a history with Backdraft? Was that your first time seeing it in the big screen?
Well, that was, you know what? Honestly, that was the first time I saw it on a big screen.
Nice.
It was definitely not the first time I saw it. You could probably ask anybody I went to high school with, and if you asked them, like, hey, what was Erin's favorite movie? What did Erin want to be when she grew up? And every single one of them, even people I didn't really know, would know, oh, she's going to be a firefighter, and she loves Backdraft. I mean, again, 13, 14 years old, and that movie came out. I, no word of a lie, probably watched it every day after school, most days. I think I've probably seen it over 100 times. Not recently, like obviously not in like say the last 20 years or so, but definitely leading up to that, all my teen years. Oh, that was the movie for me.
Nice. See, I did that same thing, but with Lilo and Stitch, and I'm not a surfer, so
Or an
didn't
alien.
pan out so well. Not an alien either.
Or a cartoon.
Or a
but yeah,
cartoon. There you
so-
go. No, that's really cool though. It's really nice to have someone to interview who's got such a like history with the movie too. We weren't
Well,
expecting that going in.
I'm
It works
kind of the right
perfectly.
age for it. I know some of the newer guys probably haven't seen it. There's been other movies over the years, but that was kind of the quintessential firefighting movie of its time, and I think
Nice.
it's still pretty, pretty relevant now. Relevant would be, objectively relevant, I guess. But yeah, it's a great movie.
That is perfect for this podcast episode, because we're talking about Backdraft, and that seems to be a big part of your journey to becoming a firefighter. So what was it about the film that drew you in, that resonated with you so much that you watched it and thought to yourself, that's what I want to do?
That has always been something that I haven't been able to pinpoint, to be honest. When I remember we rented it, because back in the day when you still rented things from Blockbuster or the corner store. My parents must have rented it. We watched it. And I remember after the movie just being like, oh, this was the coolest movie ever. And honestly, I remember a moment, my mom was upstairs and we had like one of those central vacuums or whatever. And so the hose was downstairs and she yelled down, she's like, Erin, can you bring up the vacuum hose? And I remember grabbing, this is so silly. I remember grabbing it and putting it over my shoulder to go up the stairs. And as I was doing it, I was like, oh my God, I'm a firefighter going up the stairs. And it was almost like that. And it just, because I liked the movie so much, whatever was clicking at the time for where I was at in life, I don't know, as a kid who thought it was just a cool movie, it was a cool movie. So there was a couple of those things and I just sort of thought, oh, this is neat. I want to be a firefighter. I probably wanted to be in the movie, like at 13, I want to be in the movie. But then it just sort of snowballed into, okay, well, actually, this is really kind of a cool thing. Like, I want to look into this a little bit more. And I did end up doing a project a few months later at school. I think I was in grade 9 at the time. And you could pick whatever you wanted. So I decided to go to a fire station. I was living in Winnipeg at the time. And I went and visited a fire station. And I actually still have the picture of me at 14 years old. The firefighter there had me try on gear and an SCBA and everything, and I was holding an axe, and I still have that picture. And I think that was probably the day that I was like, this is absolutely what I'm going to do. So,
nice.
Yeah, so a couple little things in there that just sort of kept, piquing my interest. But then I did actually go and research the real side of firefighting, to see if it was actually something I wanted to do. But yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So on that note, is there anything that directly sticks out from Backdraft that is just not accurate?
Oof, there's a lot. Back to 30 years ago, I probably would have went, oh, this is so realistic. This is everything. Now that I've been on the job for as long as I have been, there's not a whole lot that's really realistic. Some of the things that are you asking me what's not realistic?
Either or.
Okay.
If it's easier to pick out the realism, then...
Well, so the easiest thing that is not accurate, but for movie purposes, obviously when they do movies like this, they can't show what it really looks like in a fire. You have to be able to see the actors, you need dialogue, and they can't have it completely blacked out. Otherwise, you'd watch 2 hours of a black screen, basically, because that's what it looks like in a fire. In some of the fires that they were showing in the movie, they would have been completely black. So, a room like this, if there was a fire in the corner, within a couple of minutes, it would be smoke to the floor, completely black. I've been in fires where you can hear the fire, it's somewhere, but it's so black that you can't see it. And then once you finally get to it, you're like, wow, that was really not that far away from me, and I could not see the big red flames at all. So
wow.
That part is a little bit fantastical.
Seems like real life is scarier than the movie.
Well, you don't have ILM creating the effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Ron Howard.
Yeah.
That was his thing. Some of the things that, again, and it's also, I'm a firefighter in Canada, so, obviously there's differences in the way we do things up here versus in the United States, and that movie took place, obviously, in Chicago back in the 80s, 90s. Obviously, there were certain safety things and different kinds of gear that they use that are not accurate and probably weren't accurate for the time. But again, to show in a movie, they can't be masked up and trying to talk through SCBAs. But obviously, that was completely ridiculous. You would not be able to survive in a fire that they were in without, wearing the proper, equipment that we use, obviously, every day. Or every day that we have to go into an environment that's not, that's threatening to our lives, basically. So, there was a couple times in the movie where what was accurate would be kind of the camaraderie. That's sort of universal. Like there was the scene where after William Baldwin's character, I have to also say I can't even believe I'm talking about William Baldwin on a podcast because he was my super teen crush, so it's hilarious. But anyways.
Nice.
There was the scene where he rescues the mannequin in the garment factory fire. And then they bring it back to the fire hall and they, make fun of him, stuff like that. The camaraderie, the ribbing and the jokes and the just like that sort of family kind of vibe that they have, that's absolutely accurate. Like that's a pretty universal theme in most fire halls. It's we work together, we spend more time with each other sometimes than our own families. You develop a bond. We're doing hard things sometimes together. We have to work as a team, so naturally we're gonna be like a bunch of siblings that are bugging each other and making jokes and stuff, so that's kind of one of the more accurate aspects of the movie is more the interactions between the characters and especially the firefighters and stuff. So
jumping off that point, I'm glad you brought that up because that was something I was curious about when watching the film. And like you said, it's in Chicago in 1991, so it's not a one-to-one comparison with Kamloops. But I feel like a big theme of the film is brotherly love, not just between the two lead characters of William Baldwin and Kurt Russell, but also just the fire crew and the department as a whole. And we see in the film, especially when William Baldwin's character has his first day, there's a lot of hazing. There's a lot of kind of busting of balls, so to speak, going on in the fire hall. Have you experienced that? Is that realistic? I feel like that's a very stereotypical thing that goes on in firefighting shows and movies. And have you had personal experiences where there's been a lot of hazing of the new recruits and all those kind of pranks that are pulled? Of
course. and again, and I don't want to use the word hazing as a negative, like we obviously we're not out to hurt anybody or do anything that's obviously like harassment or anything, but that's all part of it, and that's that's how you build friendships, you build a team, you learn how to take a joke, you learn how to give a joke basically. I mean, when I first started, there would be little pranks in the middle of the night on night shifts. Somebody would put pop cans underneath the bed legs, and at some point the bed would just snap to the ground, wake you up. Just little things like that. But and a number of other ones, maybe ones that I shouldn't say. But no, all were completely above board and fine. But that's how you know that you're part of the team and you're part of something, and it's,
Have you ever hazed or pulled a prank on a new recruit yourself that you'd be comfortable sharing?
So my problem is I can't keep a straight face. So I'm usually part of them, but
not the ringleader.
But I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm usually they usually try to get me to do things that I said I'm not going to be able to keep a straight face for this one. So, but we did one time. A long time ago when I was first on. Actually, it was a night shift. It was later at night, and there was a scary show on TV. And we had he was an older captain. He's obviously since retired. He didn't like scary movies. I don't like scary movies, but of course I'm brand new. You're trying to fit in. You're like, well, I'm going to have to watch this movie and not look like a total like wuss. I mean, I watched the movie like that, but the captain got a phone call. So he took it in the office, and then the wheels start turning. It's almost like it kind of like a friendly prison sometimes, where like you given too much time to have the little conversations of like, ooh, what can we do here? What can we, everybody wants to, let's play a prank on somebody. And again, that's not like what we're doing. We are responding to calls. That is our main focus. But the lighter side of things, just like you would in an office or another organization. Anyways, he took the phone call. So I had a few of the senior guys were plotting this thing, and so we have these CPR dolls. And if you pull the skin back on the face, it's just pretty much eyeballs and like kind of a sort of a flesh-colored skeleton face.
Whoa.
So we put it on, there's a patio at one of the other fire halls, so we put it against the window and shut the blinds. And we had it all planned out. Somebody had a flashlight. My job was to like open the blinds at the, designated moment. So he came back after the phone call, and we had this whole thing set up. And at a certain part in this movie that was happening, scary movie, somebody paused it and went, "I think I hear somebody on the patio." And we actually had some kids or somebody had been jumping on the patio the day before. This is why it snowballed from that, because they were like, "Oh, remember we had that? We can use that. We can use that." So they paused the movie. He gets up because he's the captain. Who's messing around with my fire hall? I went to the window with the vertical blinds and I was, ready to go. And he said, I think he's out on the patio. And so he put his face the window as I opened the window, and he was face to face with the CPR dummy. I've never seen a man run as fast as he did. And man, the other guys, I mean, we couldn't stop laughing for an hour. It was a pretty elaborate prank at the time. It was well executed as well. But I mean, those are the things that that you build a bond when you do, stuff like that. You build a bond when you're training as well. We do a lot of training as well as, the downtime stuff. But those are the moments that you're building a team and you're building bonds. So, yeah.
Nice. And what does training look like kind of on the day-to-day?
On day-to-day, it's different probably every day. We have some, time during the day in between calls. We try and fit it in wherever we can. There's sometimes there's assigned training from our training division, so we'll all complete that. Sometimes it's, some videos, PowerPoints, things like that, and then we'll take those and then kind of put them into practice, doing more like hands-on things. If we're out and about in the city, we might do, some tours of a building and kind of just, sort of talk through like, what would we do if there was a fire here, kind of in hypotheticals and kind of get the crew thinking. We will go to the training center. We can do live fire there. We can do auto extrication stuff up there, car fires, search techniques, different things. So we're always coming up with new things, and we never run out of things that we can train for. I mean, with this job, you just never know. I mean, we're in the business of the what if, and we kind of plan for that, and kind of the insurance policy for the city, and we're here if something happens, so we should be prepared for pretty well anything. So we try to, switch up the training and make sure. We also like to keep up with like the basics, like the stuff that we're really, you really need to do super well consistently all the time. So, yeah.
Nice.
So, obviously, you grew up with Backdraft. You say you know the film like the back of your hand, pretty much.
I know it pretty well, actually.
When you became a firefighter, or when you were a rookie, when you were in the process of training, was there a moment where you went, I'm in Backdraft? Or is there a moment where you went, wow, Backdraft did not show me this. This is a little bit more than I was expecting.
I don't think I ever really thought of the movie per se when I got, because I was a little bit older. Well, I actually wasn't that old when I got hired. It was 23 when I started, so it would only have been about a 9-year, since I saw the movie. But it was more or less because I had decided, like, this is what I want to do, and then to actually, get the phone call saying, hey, you want to be that was the phone call I got. He was an assistant chief at the time, and he was sort of in charge of the hiring and whatnot. And I remember I was in the middle of getting a haircut, and the phone, I saw who it was, and I just a second, and I took the phone call, and he said, hey, Erin, it's it's Chief whoever, and he said, so do you still want to be a firefighter? And I said, oh, yeah, I was thinking about it. That'd be great. And he said, well, can you start on Friday? Yep. So, nice. And I think it was Monday. So I didn't have a whole lot of time to, I was I can't believe this is happening. So when I started, it was more just like, I can't believe that it actually happened. Like I set a goal, and from the time I was, again, like 14 on, that's all I did. I honestly ate and breathed, I want to be a firefighter, mantra. And so, everything that I had done up to that point was kind of to get to that point. And then there I was. And then that day I walked in and like, oh my gosh, here I am. So yeah, I still have a smile on my face when I walk in here in the morning for shift. It's just like, man, like, it's a pretty cool job. I can't believe I still do this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, being interested in firefighting from such a young age, is there anything about Kurt Russell's character, who's like all in all the time from the beginning, that kind of you relate to at all, or
I've recently told my crew they have to start calling me Bull, but
nice.
No, I'm joking.
Get it written on the back of your hat there.
What was your question?
No worries. Just being interested in firefighting from such a young age, is there anything about Kurt Russell's character that kind of you feel similar to him?
That's a good question. I think what was cool about his character, although it was a little bit unrealistic, I think what was cool about his character is he was kind of like a very aggressive, like confident, let's go after it, and like he's a cowboy basically.
Yeah, right.
We don't want cowboys here as much as it looks cool in a movie. Like that's how people get hurt, and it's really not how we do things. But I don't think I related with him that way, but that was what was cool about it, and that's kind of what I would maybe try, not consciously, but like try to bring to my everyday here. It would be like, being confident and making some decisions, and kind of being a little bit more aggressive, like let's make good decisions, quick decisions, and then stick by those. And then if those aren't working, let's quickly, transition. And we're not going to do the thing though where I say, dig in on the floor and let's let fire wash over us, because that's not a really great idea either. Not realistic either. But that's kind of what you need to do on this job sometimes is have a little bit of that confidence. Well, definitely have that confidence, but like that aggression and assertiveness is probably a better word today. The faster we do our job, the faster the problem goes away, kind of thing. So the whole, he didn't hesitate, to make, run into the buildings and stuff. We will move pretty fast, and we definitely move fast, but we do it a little bit more calculated and a little safer than that. So yeah.
Speaking of moving fast, I wanted to talk a little bit about the mobility in this film, because Backdraft is an action film. It's got action in it, so you want the action to be dynamic and kinetic. So I noticed some of the actors and characters were moving quite quickly through some of the fire sequences, and they're wearing all the gear, they've got everything on, and as they're wearing all the gear, they've got everything on. Was there anything in the movie that seemed like it should have been weighed down a bit more, that someone was moving maybe quicker than they should have been, or
No, they were hustling.
Tell?
Yeah, we want to hustle. We always say to the new recruits, or if you're at a fire academy, you're like, no running on the fire ground. That's just so people don't get hurt before they, while they're in training, and on the job. We don't want people getting hurt for no reason, and any reason really. No, they were moving quick, and that's what we want. We want, fit people, strong people who've made, they know their job. They're gonna execute it quickly and safely. So I think that was probably accurate.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good to know, actually.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
They definitely look like they're hustling in the movies. So.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking about it also depends too what we're doing. Like we're gonna move super slow if it's a hazmat call where we're not rushing in because we don't know what we're facing, and sometimes there's situations where you have some time to kind of plan a little bit more strategically for what you're doing. For the things where life or, somebody's safety is at stake, then we are going to move faster. We have a saying that we're going to risk a lot for a lot, but we're not going to risk a lot for nothing, essentially. So if there's lives at stake, then that's our job. Like, that's what we're here for. So we're going to hustle. So,
Nice. And you were mentioning earlier a little bit about like Kurt Russell being a bit of a cowboy, and a running theme throughout the movie is the difference in opinion between firefighters on like how to tackle something. Is that like wiggle room available in real life, or is there kind of a more regimented approach that everyone kind of agrees with?
No, I think, I can only speak for myself, and I think I can speak for the majority of the department as well. When you have a team dynamic, yes, you've got the captain or the lieutenant or, the officer in charge of the crew or in charge of the fire hall, who ultimately is the decision maker, essentially. But you wouldn't be a good leader or a good firefighter if you're not taking other people's opinions or suggestions. I mean, that's essentially what a team is. So I would say, yes, there is wiggle room. I think sometimes if the officer, like say Kurt Russell, we're going to talk about Kurt Russell, if he or she has a plan in their head, like I've seen this before, or I know that this will work, or I think this will work, or this is what I want because of X, Y, Z reasons. You do need people to just, hopefully you have the trust of your crew that, like, hey, guys and gals, this is what we're doing. And we can talk about it after if it, or we can pivot if it didn't work. And, so there is a lot of discussion. But yeah, ultimately, I mean, if you're not collaborative, then you're just going to have somebody telling people what to do, and you're just going to have people blindly doing it and maybe not feeling like they could speak up and say, well, geez, like, I think this might have worked better. And I mean, that's, again, what's the name of the game? Like, we're here to save people, property, lives, do it safely. And if we've got people not able to speak up or be part of a collaborative team, then you're not doing your job properly, I think.
Yeah, very well said.
Yeah.
I think that's true to every team. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
We've been talking a little bit already about realism, unrealistic elements of the film, but we're going to be doing a segment in these podcasts called Feasible or Flimsy, where we're just going to ask some specific moments in the film that we might have thought was a little bit ridiculous and funny, and see how you find them to be either feasible or if they're completely flimsy, they were just made up for the film. My first question is, how far would you get carrying a mannequin out of a burning building before you realized it was not a real person?
Not very far. I think that would have fooled anybody, especially if we're talking proper fire conditions, which would be black. We actually have thermal imagers that we use in a fire. So we can scan rooms pretty quickly, and we can see shapes, and if there was a body there, we might see a mannequin, but the minute you go up to it and it's all,
the plastic,
light and plastic, you would know that this is not articulating like a human.
Yeah. Even with the gloves and the
even
and the
with
big
gloves,
jacket and
even with we have pretty heavy kind of training dummies up at the training center, and those feel more like a person than like a mannequin would. So yeah, completely not at all feasible.
Nice.
Kind of figured so.
Yeah.
There is a part in the film where the firefighters approach a building and it's on fire, and they got to get the hose there, and there's a car parked next to a fire hydrant. And they break the car windows to put the hose through. Now, I'm not a firefighter, so maybe I'm being ignorant, but I was thinking during that moment, couldn't you just go over the car, under the car, around the car? Is that feasible? Flimsy? Would you break the car window to get the hose through?
I would not break the car window.
Okay, we kind of had a little bit of different opinions on that. It's actually hard to say. I've never run into that, and I don't think any of us have, but there probably has been times where somebody is parked. That's why there's yellow on the
the sidewalk, do not park here because we need access to these hydrants. Depending how close the car was, if it's going to cause a really bad kink in our supply line, and we've got a house fire or a building fire, and that's our only option for a water source, I still don't think we would do it. I think we get in a lot of trouble at some point, but I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, they might do that cowboy stuff down elsewhere, but I think that was kind of just really to illustrate, like, no nonsense. We're here. We got to get it done. We're the big guys coming in and putting out this fire, and we're going to do something pretty cool for the movie. But we probably would not do that. No. But please, everybody who's listening, do not park in front of a hydrant.
Yeah,
we need to get to them.
Little PSA.
Yeah.
The wording was maybe, probably not. So there's still a chance.
You know, can never guarantee 100%, but definitely I think I'd probably be hearing from my fire chief about that one.
So not entirely flimsy, but you
not
think...
entirely. I could foresee if there was a life or death reason to do it, then perhaps it was the only way, but that would not be part of our scope of practice for sure.
Nice.
Just a couple more. There's a scene in the film where Kurt Russell and his crew go into a building and ask where the fire is, and the building manager is not entirely sure. So they decide to take the elevator until they find the floor that's on fire. Feasible, flimsy, would you take the elevator?
Feasible, yeah.
Feasible,
yeah.
Okay.
We use the elevators. We have elevator kind of procedures, and especially for high-rise fires. So, yeah, absolutely. As long as obviously the elevator isn't compromised. We actually have keys on our engines that you'll probably look now in a elevator and you'll see like a little fire helmet, and we can actually take control of the elevator so that people can't use it, because we're going to be using it to get up and down to the fire floors and our deployment floors and different things like that. But yeah, totally feasible. We would use them.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay. I was not expecting that one.
Yeah.
Me neither, actually.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Not all the time, but like
Yeah.
if the situation and the conditions dictate, then yeah, we use them.
Awesome. And the last one we have here before we get into our overall thoughts and recommendations on the film, there's a moment in the movie where our lead romantic couple happen to be having a romantic moment on top of the fire engine when the alarm goes off and the firefighters all rush out, jump on the engine with them still on top of it. Feasible, flimsy, could you accidentally drive off with two people on top of
You
your
definitely
engine?
could
Absolutely.
accidentally drive off with somebody, but if that person wants to keep their job and not have an appointment at HR the next day or with our fire chief, then they probably shouldn't be up there. But yeah, definitely don't think that's ever happened.
I can't imagine the hoses would
100%
be
ever.
as comfortable as they make
Yeah.
it look in the film.
No, and most of our trucks are actually closed, so you're just going to be on like checkerboard, sort of checker plating. So yeah, it's not going to be comfortable at all, but definitely flimsy.
Flimsy. All right. That's honestly kind of good to know.
Yeah.
And actually, while we're on the topic of the fire trucks, not the other stuff, how difficult is it to drive the fire trucks in like Kamloops traffic? Because obviously they're dealing with Chicago traffic, and it's very dramatized in the movie. But there's, is it, reasonable to expect that there's, a possible vehicular accident just getting to a scene?
Yeah, we've actually experienced that in our throughout my career. There have been multiple incidents where, we're on our way to an emergency and somebody doesn't see us or hear us or follow what they should be doing, which is just stopping where they are or finding the nearest curb. Another PSA, because that is also something we have to navigate while, not only is your operator driving a, massive truck full of water down the road, at a elevated speed to get to where we're going, that person's also trying to navigate people who are not prepared for us coming or don't make the right decisions. So, we've had incidences where, the side of the engine's been T-boned, or, people have blown through intersections. So very, very, if we're still feasible, very feasible and has happened in here. So again, it's kind of on both, the community to kind of just, if you see us coming, just stop. If you don't know what to do, just stop, and we'll figure it out. We'll go around you.
Yeah.
Find the nearest curb and just stay until we're on our way, because sometimes it can be a little frustrating, and we're on our way to maybe somebody's grandma or parent that is having a heart attack, or we're on our way to a fire, or we're a car accident where somebody's trapped or something. Not all the time, but we don't know until we get there. So I mean, we're always moving with a kind of a purpose and a bit of urgency, and it can be frustrating when people are not yielding as they should to the fire truck. It's like, you can take 5 seconds out of your day, just stop. We'll be by in a jiffy. So so
Very useful information. Absolutely.
a lot of PSAs.
That's good. We need them sometimes. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been driving a relatively short amount of time, and even in that time, I feel like it's getting worse.
The traffic in Kamloops has gotten so much worse.
Yeah.
I think our city is just kind of really exploding. I mean, we've got new high-rises going up everywhere, a whole bunch of condos, lots of new things happening, and a lot more people here. And so it is getting busy, especially at certain times of the day to be, and then of course it's busy because there's more opportunity for people to be in accidents or and so now we're also out there in the traffic. But I mean, we've got some pretty darn good operators on. We all kind of take turns driving the trucks. Everybody's trained up on proper licenses, have the training and stuff, but they're actually, I think they're easy enough to operate. They're just a really, really big, truck, but they move through the city when they need to really well. So, yeah.
Nice.
So I guess that kind of brings us to our recommendation, where at the end of our conversations on the podcast, we're going to ask if, first of all, on a scale of 1 to 10, how realistic was the film? 1 being completely unrealistic, 10 is 1 most realistic, or does it matter?
We can choose now.
I'm just going to say 1 is completely unrealistic and 10 is the most realistic. And just a general overall recommendation of the film. Would you recommend that our viewers check out the film themselves? I feel like your whole life has been building up to this podcast.
I mean, I feel like it has been too. Like I said, I think I've seen the movie over 100 times. I know it pretty well word for word. I would absolutely, obviously recommend it. You got to watch it at least once.
Yeah.
It's funny to watch. I had my kids watch it, and they enjoyed it. And it's weird to see because it's so old, and older movies now, sometimes some of the things don't really hold water anymore. But it's a fun movie. It's if you take it for what it is, which is just kind of a brother story with some fire and cool things added in there, and murders and different things. But it's an exciting movie to watch.
Yeah.
It's probably a 4 out of 10 realistic.
Okay.
And obviously none of the fire stuff was realistic. I mean, the backdraft stuff actually is a real phenomenon. So the most realistic depiction of that would have been the time in the movie theater where he dropped his keys. Like, I told you I know this movie, but anyway, he drops his keys and you see the little puff of smoke come out from the door and then go back in. That is actually one of the signatures of a potential backdraft or a smoke explosion or something, of that nature.
Wow.
So that one was kind of, I was like, oh, that is kind of a backdraft. The one where the guy blows up in his house after he was maybe, but it was more of an explosion,
Gotcha.
It looked like just something exploded. But
how common are backdrafts?
Not very common. They happen.
Yeah.
I've never experienced one personally. We do a pretty good job on when we get on to a scene on a fire, if it's not already venting, which means either a window or something's been is broken and fire is coming out of it, or smoke is coming out of it. Once you have that, your risk for a backdraft obviously is you're not at a terrible risk for that because it's venting. It's when you have a fire and it's all enclosed and it's starting to decay and somebody opens a window or a door, and now you've got all sorts of new oxygen to ignite everything that wasn't quite done burning, but there you go. So we also have other techniques to avoid doing that, which is doing ventilation at the highest points that you can. So either in an upper window or a roof or something of that nature, because the higher you go, the less likely you're going to have air rushing in and the whole thing. But that's technical stuff. But anyway.
Nice.
Yeah.
So there's definitely enough for a sequel.
Yeah.
Have you seen Backdraft 2?
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It was awful. I was so disappointed. Yeah, it was not. I do
Not
not
recommending that
recommend
one.
watching it. Don't let it soil the first one by watching Backdraft
Nice.
2. It
Love
is not
it.
good at all.
Yeah, I have to say I've seen Backdraft twice, and it was
Oh, sorry.
no worries. And it was a week apart, and watching it in theaters was like a crazy different experience. Like
Yeah.
that was very, very cool.
Yeah.
So, definitely viewers, check it out if you get a chance, and if it's in theaters, 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess actually I have one more small question. In that 4 rating for realism, is there any firefighting technique that squeaks through as maybe realistic?
Oh, any. Gosh, I got to think about that one. I got to mentally go through the whole movie.
Have to ask one question that pushes you.
Gosh, there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, even the big fire at the end. I mean, they were on a roof that was basically on fire. We wouldn't probably do that. We don't want to be up there when those things are on fire like that. No, there wasn't really a lot of fire stuff that was super accurate. Maybe how they put the hose over their shoulders to carry it around. That might have been it.
Got one.
They do things differently down there too. They have like engine companies and truck companies, and one doesn't necessarily bring a hose line in sometimes down there, and the other ones do. So I felt like in the movie, you don't know who's who really, and you're sitting there thinking like, why put some water on that thing already? But they're just different kind of tactics down there.
Gotcha.
The 90s were weird.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, on that note, thank you so much
Yeah, you're welcome.
for joining us.
No problem.
I'll give you the floor. Is there anything you would like to say to the community at all?
To the community. No, we're all just, pretty well, all of us here at Kamloops Fire, we love living here. We love the city. We're proud to be firefighters here and serve the community. And, we're always a phone call away if you need us. And that's kind of a cool feeling to know that people can rely on you to, hopefully come and help them out of a pinch if they're in a bad way. So
Nice.
yeah, and not even that. Like we like to go and be out there with kids and visit daycares and schools and educate people and let people see the trucks. And,
Yeah, it was really
it's
nice.
Pretty exciting to see a fire truck when you're a young kid or an adult. Really.
Oh, I got that little flutter when you guys came by the screening with the fire truck. I was like, oh man, that's really cool.
I know, and that's what I mean. I still walk in, and especially when I'm in the front seat of the truck and we're driving to a call or we're just driving to do inspections or wherever we might be going. Sometimes you do have that little pinch me moment where you're pretty cool to be here. Pretty honored. So yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, on behalf of the community, thank you so much for all that you guys do for
Thank you.
Kamloops and keeping us safe.
That's our
And
pleasure.
keeping me safe my entire life.
Me too, actually. We're the same age, aren't we?
I'm 26, so that depends on you.
Yeah, freshly 26. So yeah. Perfect. Well, on that note, we'll do a little outro, I
Okay.
suppose.
You want to take it?
So thank you to everyone who is watching and listening this episode of Capes of Kamloops, our inaugural episode. So you will go down as history as the first guest.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So thank you very much. And our first viewership, our first audience as well. So to anyone who attended the screenings, thank you for sticking with us all the way 6-7 months until this releases. And hopefully we will get to come back with more screenings next year, so keep an eye out for that. But in the meantime, you can find us on Instagram at Capes of Capes of Kamloops, and on Facebook at Capes of Kamloops Podcast. But with that, thank you for joining us, and thank you again. I have been one of your hosts, Kyle Robertson.
I've been the other one, Zach.
And do you want to?
And I'm Captain Erin Bruzzese.
Perfect. Thanks for listening.
All right. Hello. Welcome, everybody, to our special screening of Backdraft. This is brought to you by the Capes of Kamloops Podcast. This podcast is also supported by TELUS STORYHIVE. My name is Zach, and this is Kyle. So we want to thank you guys all for coming out. This podcast is to celebrate and support our local working heroes here in Kamloops. Our first episode of this podcast, the video format, will be available on Optic TV, YouTube, and we'll also be putting it on Spotify next spring, so keep an eye out for that. And keep an eye on our Instagram, because we're going to be posting updates as we go along for more screenings to come, and when the episodes will be recording and when they'll be coming out. This week, we are celebrating our local fire department, who are so gracious to be here with us tonight. They're also very gracious to bring a fire engine, so if you guys have a chance to check that out outside, definitely do so. Thank you guys so much for providing us with that. And with that, I will pass this over to Kyle. Once I also let you know, before I forget, that also in the episode, our local fire department is going to be joining us for their thoughts and opinions on what they thought about the movie that we are about to watch. Kyle?
So along with tonight's screening, as I'm sure many of you noticed, we're also taking donations for the BC Burn Fund to help support their mission to help burn survivors throughout their recovery process. So there is a cash box that was in the lobby and will be in the lobby again after the screening. And if you would like to donate in an alternative way, please find one of us in these Capes of Kamloops shirts, and we will help you out with that.
Also, if you, a business or organization, would also like to financially support our upcoming events for Capes of Kamloops Podcast, or become a sponsor for the podcast, please speak to one of our representatives in Capes of Kamloops t-shirts after the screening.
And lastly, we'd like to give a big shout out to the Kamloops Film Society and the Paramount Theatre for helping us out and helping us to bring this event to you, and for volunteering their time and energy to make this happen. So big thanks to them. Big thanks to our